Hello and welcome, my name is Ben and I make paper puppets. If paper's your thing, please subscribe and you can get notifications about future videos. But today, I'm going to show you how I made this fella. Say hi, Grogu. How are you today? Oh, you're tired? Okay, well we probably better get on with it then. So, this is how I made a paper puppet Grogu. So here we have laid out all the materials that we'll be using to make the puppet, and the idea of making puppets with paper really appealed to me because I just love the idea of paper because it's really accessible material and it's also flexible and strong, so there's so much you can do with it, and it felt like a really good challenge to be able to hopefully make some super realistic puppets but using this really simple material. And whenever I create a puppet, I start with sort of templates that I make. Take quite a while to make. Here we've got the face section, which we've just finished. And the next section here is the eyelids that we're making. So it's not all paper. I've made a few concessions. So here you can see I'm using cocktail sticks to strengthen this part, because it'll need to be moved up and down with the fingers to allow the eyelids to open and to close. What will happen is the lid section will sit between the face section and the eyeballs. And again, the eyeballs, I tried different things with paper, but I didn't quite get the feel I wanted. So again, it's a slight concession making the eyeballs out of polystyrene, but they paint up really well, and you can get a really nice glazed effect by putting glue on the top of them. You get a really nice sort of shiny, glassy effect that eyes have. So they're glued on to the paper, and then use a paper fastener a couple of paper fasteners to attach the face to the eyelid section to the eyes themselves. And obviously I said they're paper puppets, and I've used polystyrene, I've used a couple of paper fasteners as well, and a couple more we'll use later, and obviously glue. But they are 90% paper. You know, there's a few concessions here and there. The bit I'm making here is the finger loops that will be used to open and close the mouth. So it's not a traditional puppet where the thumb goes down to open and close the mouth. With this one, you sort of just push your fingers into these holes, and the way it's designed, that will allow the mouth to open and close. So once the face is created, we're then looking at creating the top of the head and the skull, and this looks like a sort of alien or a space invader, but basically when it's all glued up and folded around, you'll get that sort of curvature of the top and the back of the head. And the two holes that you can see there are the spaces where the ears will sort of slot in. There's quite a lot of gluing on this section. We have to sort of glue at the front and the back to make sure that the flaps are fully down on both sides. But once you've done it, you get a nice curved semi-sphere that will be used for the back of the head. And then this is the ears we're looking at here, and what I like to do is score all the fold lines first, just get a much neater approach to it. And then obviously we're adding in the new colours, paper for the ear detail, and then adding glue, and they just slot in to the top of the head and glue on the inside, so you shouldn't really be able to see the joins too much. And I'm just crimping the top here to allow to match it up with the top of the head. And as I glue the two together, you can start to see the shape of the head coming together and appearing. There's a few extra little bits here, a few folds, just to sort of give it that real sort of spherical feel to it. And then once I've done that, the next section is going to be creating the cheeks. It's difficult to get all the contours you want all with one sheet of paper, so there's a little addition here, and they'll be glued on in a second. But first of all, we've just got to glue the jaw into the side of the face, as you can see me doing here. And then the next section is to create the sort of nose and eyebrows area that gives him a lot of his character. This section will also cover up the two paper fasteners. It's quite a nice little thing to give him a lot more personality. and just sort of glues in place there. And then once we've glued that in, the next station is to get those cheeks, and then we just sort of glue those on. And what they do is they cover up the full width of the mouth opening, so then you can just really focus in on the sort of mouth there, as you can see. Once we've created the head, the next thing is to give it a neck to allow to put it into the body, allowing your hand to sort of come up through the centre. I decided to do this as if he's sort of wearing a t-shirt underneath. And then it's on to creating the body itself. In terms of the paper that I use for this, I tend to use paper that's slightly thicker than normal paper, so maybe 120 GSM. And this white paper was 120, and also the paper that I've used for the face, the head. I like to use craft paper for the faces because I feel that's got a lot of character to it. It's a really nice texture. It doesn't feel too polished. And likewise, I'm using that for the clothes as well. And here I'm like, as you can see, I'm sort of roughing it up a bit because you don't want it to be too perfect. Creating here the front of his garments, gluing the sides onto this sort of central section. And then once I've done that, gluing in the strengthener at the back. And then we're going to be gluing together the top bit, which will be almost like the collar that the head will slot into. And then at the bottom you've got the base, and that sort of folded over paper will give it quite a lot of strength. Just folding this underneath, you don't want it to be too neat because you want it to have a sort of lived in effect. And there you've got the body. The next section is to create the sleeves, which is the same paper, but then also what we want to do is create some nice cuffs. And so I find that by really just balling up the paper a few times really gives it a nice texture. And then into that we're going to add some kitchen roll, which will sort of plump it up slightly when it's glued in there, and it gives that real nice sort of texture to it, which is kind of what we want with the puppets. You want that sense of lived in texture. And then we're just going to put some strength in there and create a hole that we'll put a paper fastener through later. Next up is the hands. They're a little bit tricky, but you've got these sort of 3 fingers, and again, ideally trying to get it all out of one piece of paper. So here you can see me just rolling up the 3 fingers, and then the palm sort of just slots in there, and we'll glue it in place, do a bit of crimping, folding, a bit more gluing, and then that all sort of just comes into place, and then there's a final bit of crimping just to give it the shape. And you've got these 2 Grogu hands, and they just glue into the sleeves. And once you've got the sleeves there, you're putting the paper fasteners in, and then they'll just attach to the body once we've glued the sides together. So adding the sleeves in. And the last section is the collar, and again here it's just a case of really scrunching that paper up quite a few times to get that lovely texture, and gluing it, a few more kitchen rolls to give it that volume, and then it's just glued onto the top of the body. And then the head goes on, and then the final little touch is just to actually I use a barbecue skewers, which is what I've been using to glue it, and just stick it in the back there, and that allows for a little bit of manipulation of the arm. So there we have it, a paper puppet Grogu. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. I plan to make more of these videos, so it would be super helpful to hear your thoughts about the video and the puppet in the comments below. Much appreciated. Until next time, bye.